here, and I guess with the oxeye daisy, but you'll see these were quite hard to find. It's pretty much the end of the season for that. But this one here, it illustrates the fact that plants are able to draw attention to themselves. Yeah, the thing is they're actually not trying to gather your attention. This is for insects, but we get the benefit. So basically, all these colourful flowers. And also the aroma that comes off a lot of these plants is basically attention-seeking behaviour from plants going, hello, I'm over here, I'm over here. What it's wanting to do is draw insects in order to get the pollen and spread it around. But what it effectively does is for us, like, so if there was some of this over there right now, you'd say, oh, there's the self-heal. Whereas the rest of the year, there's no way you'd stand there and recognise the self-heal, but it enables you to start mapping out your surroundings. So like if you lived here, you'd know where to go and get self-heal at any point. And why would you want to do that? Well, this is where we can start looking at what these plants are good for. So specifically, we've got 3 plants here, which you really could do with, actually 4, which you really could do with knowing about, just for basic first aid, right? So both the plantains, yarrow and self-heal, have the same properties, just for healing little cuts and wounds. Yeah. So if I cut myself, I would go out and try and find one of these 3. So I've cut myself there, and what I'd do is I'd mash up that plantain leaf and put it on. But the beautiful thing is with the ribwort plantain, if I'm out in the middle of nowhere, I've got nothing else to use, I can then go like that around the wound and get a bit of grass or something and tie it on. It'll probably fall off by the time I get home, but that's long enough, because what it does is it staunches the bleeding. All 4 of these plants staunch bleeding. Self-heal, yarrow and the plantains. They also are antimicrobial, so they'll stop the wound getting infected, and they also speed up the healing process. So you've got emergency first aid right there. So I've got a couple of kids, and it doesn't matter where we are, if they've just cut themselves, I'll say, hang on a minute, I'll go and find some plantain. Because no matter where you are, if you go and wander around for a couple of minutes, you will find some plantain. Now you've got your eye in. It's quite funny, a lot of you, some of you came back and that was the one you were struggling to find. And yet, if you look around, okay, we've got to go a few more yards, but there it is.
Oh,
okay,
right.
So it's
everywhere.
Yeah.
See,
it's basically my garden.
Yeah.
Plantain is everywhere, and it turns out that these lawns that we've got, some people get a bit grumpy about lawns because they don't realise, you know, people are talking about land use and so on. They say, oh, why have we got all these lawns? But actually, lawns are full of food. Yeah. So there we have. There we have the plantain. This down here is daisy leaf, which I didn't get you to find because it's just too easy. And there's clover. And there's actually, oh no, somebody's dropped it.
Yeah,
Oxeye daisy. There's a dandelion.
Which one's
This is another dandelion-like thing. So already just there, we've got 5 or 6 things. Clover you can eat. So that's got salicylic acid in, which is this thing you get aspirin from.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So how about you just pick up that from your
Tomorrow, probably.
And the red.
Tomorrow. He's
been walking right along.
No, literally just chow down on this now.
Just eat it.
Do you have to, if you pick something to eat, do you have to eat it immediately, more or less?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. So anyway, you got emergency first aid wherever you are, right? So it isn't just food that comes from here, okay? Yeah. It's medicine comes from here. You got aspirin right there growing on your lawn.
So have you had it?
And that's a beautiful thing, because basically what happens is you cut the lawn and it enables these plants that actually can live in amongst the grass to flourish. Nothing's happening to destroy them. And that means that the next thing that people get a bit hung up about, oh, what if everybody picked these leaves and ate them? Wouldn't poor Mother Nature have a fit and curl up and die or something, with all these nasty humans beginning to forage and eat? You know, there's this paranoia that, like, if we got back to land, that land couldn't handle it. It's actually the reverse. Land can't handle what we're doing now, industrial agriculture and so on, because when you have industrial agriculture, what you're doing is destroying everything so that you can have one thing. Okay, so we kill the soil bacteria, we kill the insects, we kill the birds, the mammals. It's scorched earth policy, Even the soil is now dead, and the only reason that these plants are growing is because we're putting chemicals on them. So we get a big pile of wheat at the end of it. So that's the thing that Mother Nature can't handle, right? Because
there's 90 harvests left on British soil before it's totally done.
That may or may not be true.
I mean, it was on the Jeremy Clarkson show.
I know it's a slightly over-egged statement, but yeah, if we carry on doing what we're doing, the soil will certainly not be improved. It'll get worse. But the point is, what we've done, is we've taken something that is unfathomably complex, right? Which is the ecology of the planet. Basically, we've got loads and loads of different things, and they're all joined up in loads and loads of different ways. And the outcome of that is called life, right? Life comes out of complex connections between lots of things, and that starts with chemistry. You know, the most basic form of life was organic chemicals swimming around in a soup called the ocean, you know, for billions of years, and then suddenly this little extra bit of linkage happened, and you got life. And had you been watching, you'd never predicted that. You wouldn't have thought, oh, I know what's going to happen any minute now. These chemicals, and then after that, you have living things, and they start getting like tiny little things that we might call nerves, you know, that are communicating information. And gradually, there's things with slightly more nerves and different kinds of nerves, and then the nerves are connecting in different ways. Now, if you were watching, you would never have predicted what's going to happen next, right? Which is that consciousness emerges. Suddenly, you've got something that can stand back and say, "Hey, this is going on. Wow, and I'm me, and oh wow." See, so that's something completely different that emerges when lots of good things come together. So this is the point. All the good stuff happens because of complexity. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. So the more connections there are between us, the more there is likely to be, you know, wonderful things emerge. Someone's going to have some great idea that will change everything, you know, or suddenly there'll be this kind of synergy between people that means we can actually get something done rather than it all fragmenting and we go, no, it's mine, I'll, you know, and so on. And so what we need to happen is to reverse the trend. So this idea that, okay, if we just make it really simple and have just a shed load of gold, you know, or let's have loads of wheat, or, you know, let's have loads of white people, or, you know, it's all about one thing, simplifying. But you see, the thing that I've just expounded in terms of lots of things connecting in lots of different ways and good stuff happening, but that's basically called life. Consciousness is just the new kind of expression of life that just gets more wonderful, right? Well, what's this then? If we're narrowing it all down, if this is life, this expansive, multi-dimensional, interconnected thing of diversity and connectivity, if that's life, what's this thing when we narrow it down? We cut the connections. Huh? It's death, right? So that's what it is. Industrial agriculture is death, right? Global consumer capitalism, which is all about a big pile of money, is death, right? So what happens this morning, yeah? Which is just going out and becoming a normal organism again. So anybody feeling normal yet? Yeah. So yeah, you've gone out and used your senses to find food in your immediate surroundings. What an incredibly normal thing to do, but an incredibly wonderful thing to do, because what's happened is we've gone from having an organism which is connected in zillions of different ways with its surroundings, like the Homo sapiens, right? Wherever you've got hunter-gatherer tribes that are still in this space, right? They're still in this space. They know all the species. Hunter-gatherers don't have species around that they don't know. They don't even have minerals around them they don't know. They know the weather patterns, the climate, everything, right? There's something about that they know and understand. And not only that, it's in their stories. So it's part of their identity. It means something. Like for them, clover would mean something. You'd look at that. And yet we don't even know what that means. If I was to say to you, what does garlic mustard mean? You'd go, what do you mean? What is it? What sort of a question is that? But ask that to any traditional indigenous culture. They could tell you what the rabbit means. Do you see what I mean? It's woven into their whole fabric. They've got systemized things that are their rituals or dances or stories or something that means that, you know, that's woven into my life, but I'm woven into its life. Because guess what? That is happening. The fact that this lawn is mown, whoever's mowing the lawn here is woven into the life of this lawn. These species are here because of something a human is doing. And this is the thing. We've ended up thinking, especially with this kind of conservation mindset that's come in, the naughty bad humans have gone and screwed everything up. So let's just stop, put your hands by your sides, don't touch anything, and just eat food from industrial agriculture. You know, we won't take anything from the wild because, you know, because we're naughty bad humans, and we should just keep ourselves to ourselves. But the more we keep ourselves to ourselves, the industrial agriculture encroaches more and more on the wild. So this doesn't work, folks. What you want to do is get back into the wild. And here it is. Yeah. We didn't have to go to the African savannah, we didn't have to go up to the Alps, didn't have to go to the Amazon rainforest. Here it is. You're just getting right back into the wild this morning. The only trouble is we've got to do the next thing, because all you've done is touch and think, and yeah, so you need to actually start ingesting these things. But guess what happens when you eat a wild leaf? Okay, so I'm going to do this thing now, right? So just imagine this is the first time I ever did this. All my life, all my food has come through an industrial, agricultural, chemical based, you know, my food's come through factories and they put stuff in it that were made in laboratories, and it's come in a packet to a supermarket on a lorry, you know, and there we go, for example. But that's not too bad. If you look at the ingredients, there's probably not a lot in here that was cooked up in a laboratory. Sodium bicarbonate, maybe. That was probably made in a laboratory, but it's not too bad. It's not too bad. But like, the point is, everything's mediated. Instead of me being connected to land, because the most basic thing that species do to connect to land is they eat food that comes from here, and every time they eat it, the molecules from that food becomes part of the organism. So after a little while, if you think about it, the organism that's only eating food that comes from here, it is here. As in, that organism is part of this landscape. Whereas we're funny things, you know, here we are walking around on this landscape. What's the molecules of your body? A little bit from here, there, everywhere, and whereas when this animal eats a leaf, and the whole business, there's all of these interrelatedness things that happen between the animal and this plant. E.g., mowing this lawn and it's coming back. I was just saying that you're a very important person because you mowed a lawn, presumably. Do you? Do you mow the lawn?
I have a man that does that.
Yeah, you should have taken the credit there. I was going to make you seem like a very important person. But the point is, you're a key part of this ecosystem. To have the lawn mowed, you're sustaining all of these species that come up. But what relationship is there when you eat something that comes from a packet from a supermarket? Yeah? There is no emotional bond, there is no practical bond, etc. It's all 1 step removed, 2 steps removed, 15 steps removed, you know. And not only that, probably because we can nicely turn a blind eye because we can't see where the food's coming from, we don't have to look at the soil destruction. We don't have to look how, you know, there used to be a culture there and it got smashed up by colonialism or whatever, or this species is being destroyed or whatever, you know. So instead of building linkages, which is what we do when we get to know the plants in our environment, and we start building an emotional bond, we start actually ingesting the food that comes from here, so we're part of the landscape, if you all follow what I was trying to say there. You know, instead of doing that, what the industrial agricultural food system is doing is going snippety snip, 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 snip to all the links that used to make each species just be actually, not just be a part of here, but actually, you know, be here, you know. So when I do this, okay, oh, I'm back in. I just came right back in. I'm back into the ecology of here. I'm chewing it now. Oh, these things are hitting my senses. I'm participating in this place because this thing that came from this place, I can now taste it. It feels good. My mouth is watering. That's good. Now I'm going to do something really radical. Now I'm going to swallow it. So that leaf's going to become part of me. That means I'm part of here. And I just opted out of that entire global consumer capitalist system. I can say to the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, the man in the lab cooking up all those chemicals, the industrial farmer, I say, I don't need you, baby. I've got a direct link, yeah? I don't need you. But the thing is, what we're saying when we do that is saying, I do need you. And the thing is, you can't have it both ways. You know, you're either 5 steps into this and 2 steps into that, or, you know, they are completely diametrically opposed. We are either participants in this reciprocity of land sustaining species, which is all that's ever happened. And then we've come in and done this new thing where we're going to sort of stand on the land's neck and say, give me food or I'll, you know. That's basically what industrial agriculture is. Yeah, it's forcing the land to give something that it wouldn't give, we think. It's kind of paranoid and delusional, yeah? Because here's this person, if you look at it like this, here's the biosphere, utterly benign, yeah? We've co-evolved. Who said about the placenta and the breastfeeding thing? Who said that? Yeah, because that's what it's all about. It's like we are being sustained, we are being nourished, yeah? And yet we've gone to this thing where we think that instead of allowing ourselves to be sustained and nourished, we're going to force the issue and guarantee a supply that was there already. So yeah, I guess what I'm saying is it's not too late, folks. We can actually return to circumstance A, yeah? Placenta, breast milk, nurturance, benign, yeah, the idea that this whole web of life has, you know, emerged over billions of years to be a very benign and sustaining and supportive and holding space, you know, it's not hard at all to take a few steps. So, okay, so you've taken a few steps because you've gone wandering around and found the plants, and therefore I've made myself redundant. It means that you can find and identify plants. Look at that. You don't need me. All I need to do is stick labels on things. Then you can go and become foragers and become part of landscapes again. So what I want us to do now is, if we've got enough here, is just try and taste some of this stuff. Okay, so sorrel, we can just break it up.
Sorry, did you want to?
We can just break it up because I want you to start with sorrel.
Yeah, I'm good, bro.
Just because it is it's such a crowd pleaser, really. Sorrel.
Thanks.
Can we maybe cut somebody and then stop the bleeding?
There you go.
Do you want a knife?
Where's my knife? Borrow your hand, blood. Okay.
Anyone? Yeah.
I'm in.
I should have got you to pick more, really. But,
Cut him.
Does anyone need a?
Sorrel.
Oh yeah,
Sorrel.
It's good. It's watercress.
Yeah, I like it.
There's a little piece there that you could
Sorrel lemony.
Yeah.
You explained it quite nicely.
Oh, it's delicious.
Did everyone get some of that?
I want some.
Yeah, go on. It's all there.
You didn't share your snack on it.
Did you want to take?
Oh, that's delicious.
Yeah, it's good.
Mm.
Oh, it's all gone.
No, it's not. The stalk's the best bit.
Oh, okay.
We've saved the best bit.
Tastes good.
It's like
Oh,
coriander.
is that different
You
to
need
wood
the stalk.
sorrel? It's very pink.
I'm hungry, so.
So sorrel is just, it's an old Germanic word. It means sour leaf. So wood
yeah,
sorrel
so like
tastes
pepper,
exactly the
pepper.
same,
Yeah.
but is completely unrelated. So they're just going to be two different plants that have the same acids in them, so
Yeah.
they taste the same.
Yeah.
Wood sorrel's a thing that looks like clover.
Yeah.
You find it in the woods, and it's beautiful. And also, there's lots of other ones that are very closely related to wood sorrel. They're garden escapes.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have these little slightly brownish purple leaves growing all over their garden, and they're pulling them out because they think it's a weed.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a fantastic salad. You'd never do that again if you knew what it was you're pulling out. You'd encourage it.
Awesome.
So there's sorrel, and that is just one of the most immediately accessible things. It's the sort of thing you can snack on, but obviously you can make salads out of that. So if we were going to make a salad, most of these things are salads. So we've got the oxeye daisy, we've got the yarrow, we've got the plantains, we've got
Is there
We've
a
got the
relationship
self-heal.
between plantain here and the kind of?
no, it's weird that it shares the name with the banana. But let me tell you something about plantain. This is something that is very hard to get wrong. So it's a good starting point. It's a good starting point, and it's so common. So like, if you wanted to get something in your diet as from tomorrow, just say, well, I liked what Miles said about connecting with land and finding something from my immediate surroundings. You can definitely find this in your immediate surroundings, and just chop a bit of it into a salad. So can you see it has like these stripes running from top to bottom? These are parallel lines, and that's very unusual. The same with the ribwort. there's nothing else that grows on grass like this, or sometimes you find plantain growing on sort of dry, open areas where nothing else grows because it's so robust. It can handle being stamped on and driven on and all sorts. The only other thing that can handle quite so much pressure is the pineapple weed. Also grows in similar places. But the thing is, you're not going to confuse it with anything else, and especially when you look at these very distinctive structures with the flowers and the seeds. What I want you to look out for as you're wandering around is the more mature greater plantain seed. So these flowers are now turned to seed, right? And we haven't really got enough to do this justice. But when you found a slightly more mature one like this, rather than, well, that we'd just about get some seeds off, but that we wouldn't. That's still a flower. You can drag the seeds off like that, and they're delicious, yeah? So if you guys remember that for the rest of the time, when you're out walking, look out for these spikes, and you can do what I've done there and just drag the seeds off. They're a delicious snack. So it's the sort of thing that can keep you going when you're out and about at this time of year. This is the top sort of wild snack presently.
Yeah, I love it.
That's really interesting.
Take some home and throw it in the garden.
You've got it in your garden already.
It's probably there already, right?
It's probably there. So that's, you know, that's your self-sustaining snack for this time of year. There's pretty much always something, apart from the dead of winter. You even in the dead of winter, there's rose hips. You can snack on rose hips when you're out and about. But anyway, so you just can't get that wrong, really, unless you're looking in the wrong place. So there's a water plantain, which I've got a question mark over the edibility of water plantain. Grows on the edge of ponds and things. But forget ponds, we're talking dry places, grassy areas, or areas with no plants. You're not going to confuse this for anything else. Do you see, does that help you feel confident? So you can go out and pick that, and then you just chop it and put it in salads, or put it in stir fries, or put it in your pasta sauce or whatever. So this is a plant you can immediately get in your diet. It's a good source of protein. Now, I'm not saying it's got as much protein as meat or beans or anything like that, but as leaves go, there's a lot of protein in plantain. So if you want to just maybe, well, I'll tear it up for you. Just come and try the plantain leaves. You might find it a little bit bitter, but bear in mind you're going to put it in a salad with other things.
It's okay.
It's a crocker.
Take some chewing.
So there's two things. There's two things that crop up a
The
lot.
flavor comes up.
There's two things that crop up a lot with some of the wild plants. One, as you just said, is quite chewy, so that means it's fibrous. And the other thing is quite a lot of the leaves have a little bit of bitterness to them. So I'll try and roll this into one. When I have several hours to do this, I do a lengthy version of both of these. So I do a party political broadcast on behalf of the bitterness party, and then a little bit later I do a party political broadcast on behalf of the fibre party. So this means by the end of it, if you ever say, oh, that's a bit bitter, you'd add the little phrase on the end and say, which is a good thing, okay? And this is a bit chewy or fibrous, oh, which is a good thing, okay? So here's the bitterness one, as quick as I can do it. So did you know that you really like bitterness?
Too bitter.
Even if you think you don't. So we're talking marmalade, coffee, chocolate, and beer, bitter, yeah? So we deliberately put hops in to make it bitter. Marmalade, you do not make marmalade. Well, you probably do not make marmalade, but if you were making marmalade, you wouldn't choose a nice sweet orange. You want the Seville orange, which is full of bitterness. It's really intensely bitter.
Okay.
Why is that? Well, because in context, this bitter note is something that lifts the whole thing. So it's a bit like having somebody with a particularly okay, you got a singer, and their voice on their own, you'd say, oh my goodness, don't ever give this person a solo. But somehow or another, when the whole choir is singing, that person's voice makes the whole thing hang together. It's that kind of idea. Bitterness is like that. Most of us do not want to just eat bitter on its own, but you've got 5 kinds of taste buds in your mouth, and one of them is bitter. Why is that? Now there's a ridiculous theory that says that's so that babies won't eat bitter stuff and they won't get poisoned. It's complete nonsense, right? Because most of the bitter leaves are not poisonous. Most of the poisonous leaves are not bitter, so that we can just do away with that theory. There are some bitter ones that are poisonous, but it doesn't fit basically. So we have bitterness receptors because we're supposed to develop a taste and appreciation for it, and that's because a lot of these bitter compounds are incredibly health promoting. So I'll give you an example. Orange juice. Now, years ago, I think like about 10 years ago, the orange juice companies figured out how to extract a compound that prior to that, orange juice was a little bit bitter. There's something that gets into the juice that comes out of the peel during the pressing process. It's called